At its height in the 1840s, the West African kingdom of Dahomey boasted an army so fierce that its enemies spoke of its prodigious bravery. This 6,000-strong force, known as the Egoji, raided villages under cover of darkness, took captives and slashed off resistors' heads to return to their king as trophies of war. Through these actions, the Agojie established Dahomey's preeminence over neighboring kingdoms, and became known by European visitors as Amazons due to their similarities to the warrior women of Greek myth. Dahomey emerged as a key player in the trafficking of West Africans between the 1680s and early 1700s, selling its captives to European traders whose presence and demand fueled the industry, and, in turn, the monumental scale of Dahomey's warfare. Though the majority of individuals taken prisoner by Dahomey were enslaved abroad, a significant number remained in the kingdom, where they served on royal farms, in the army or at the palace. In truth, Guizot only agreed to end Dahomey's participation in the slave trade in 1852, after years of pressure by the British government, which had abolished slavery in its own colonies in 1833. Though Guizot did at one point explore palm oil production as an alternative source of revenue, it proved far less lucrative, and the king soon resumed Dahomey's participation in the slave trade. So who were the Agojie? The first recorded mention of the Agojie dates to 1729. But the unit was possibly formed even earlier, toward the beginning of Dahomey's existence, when King Huigbaja reigned, from approximately 1645 to 1685, created a corps of woman elephant hunters. Alternatively, Queen Hangbi, who briefly ruled as regent following the death of her brother in the early 18th century, may have introduced the women warriors as part of her palace guard. Either way, the Agojie reached their peak in the 19th century, under Guizot, who formally incorporated them into Dahomey's army. Due to the kingdom's ongoing wars, Dahomey's male population had dropped significantly, creating an opportunity for women to replace men on the battlefield. Dahomey's standing army was an anomaly in and of itself, as most other African kingdoms disbanded their forces when not actively at war. The fact that the Agojie and their male counterparts wore uniforms also set them apart, establishing the Dahomeyan military as an organized, highly visible fighting force. All of Dahomey's women warriors were considered Agojie, or wives of the king. They lived in the royal palace alongside the king and his other wives, inhabiting a largely woman-dominated space. Aside from eunuchs and the king himself, no men were allowed in the palace after sunset. The Agojie were considered the king's third-class wives, as they typically didn't share his bed or bear his children. Because they were married to the king, they were restricted from having sex with other men, although the degree to which this celibacy was enforced is subject to debate. In addition to enjoying privileged status, the warriors had access to a steady supply of tobacco and alcohol. They also had enslaved servants of their own. To become an Agojie, recruits underwent intensive training, including exercises designed to harden them to bloodshed. In 1889, French naval officer Jean Bayol witnessed Naniska, who likely inspired the name of Davis' character in The Woman King, a teenager who had not yet killed anyone, easily pass a test of wills. Walking up to a condemned prisoner, she reportedly swung her sword 3 times with both hands, then calmly cut the last flesh that attached the head to the trunk. She then squeezed the blood off her weapon and swallowed it. Another common form of training involved mock assaults that found recruits scrambling across towering walls of acacia thorns. In the words of a British traveller who examined the barriers, "I could not persuade myself that any human being, without boots or shoes, would, under any circumstances, attempt to pass over so dangerous a collection of the most efficiently armed plants I had ever seen." The warriors bore the pain without complaint, and the bravest among them received acacia thorn belts marking their stoicism. The Agojie's divisions consisted of 5 branches: blunderbuss or artillery women, elephant hunters, musketeers, razor women, and archers. Surprising the enemy was of the utmost importance. Warriors snuck up on villages at or before dawn, taking captives and decapitating those who resisted. Though European accounts of the Agojie vary widely, what is indisputable is their constantly outstanding performance in combat. with the rest of the Dahomeyan army, these women warriors were the scourge and terror of the whole surrounding country, always at war and generally victorious, as an American missionary later recounted. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, share and subscribe for more content.